Hello, and welcome back to another edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented to you by the GSMC Podcast Network on this Sunday, June 15th. I'm your host on the weekends, Jake Daley, joined by my good friend and co-host, Mehrob Fatemi. Mehrob, how are we doing on this beautiful Sunday afternoon, evening, whatever you want to call it?
We're doing pretty well. We're doing pretty well, but some breaking news just happened, and we'll get into it during the show, and I'll explain everything about why my mood is completely shattered. We'll get into all that.
Yes, we certainly will. We have a packed show for you today. A couple of big trades across multiple sports leagues. First, we got Desmond Bane to the Orlando Magic. And then we have the one that you're upset about in Rafael Devers, all-star for the Boston Red Sox, being traded to the West Coast and going to go to San Francisco and play with the Giants now. Besides that, we also have the U.S. Open to get into. We have Stanley Cup to get into. We have a lot more than you would expect for the middle of June. But first, before I dive into anything, I just want to quickly remind everybody, this show, it's all about you. We love hearing your comments, your questions, your insights, your opinions, your hot takes, whatever you got. We want to hear it. We want to make this show as interactive, as exciting as possible. One easy way to do that, if you're on YouTube, you can use the super chat feature. To do that, all you have to do is click the $ at the bottom of the chat box, type in your message there, send that in. This guarantees that your message gets on the air, gets read live. It's also just a great way to support our channel. If super chat's not your thing, if you're not on YouTube, you can also go to gsmcpodcast.net. Now, let's first dive into the NBA and break down Desmond Bane to the Orlando Magic for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Cole Anthony and 4 first-round picks. Mehrob, what do we think of this trade? What do you make of this move by Orlando and by Memphis in sending Desmond Bane away?
Yeah, it's just about time for the NBA offseason to begin. Some trades, some news, some free agency stuff. Free agency's a little bit down the line, but we finally got a taste of our first blockbuster trade of the NBA offseason. The Magic acquiring Desmond Bane, the number two guy on the Memphis Grizzlies, behind John Morant, a guy, in my opinion, that I thought was untouchable on the Memphis Grizzlies, in return for 4 first-round picks. It just shows just how much it took to move Desmond Bane from Memphis. It's something that the Grizzlies really didn't want to do. Already looking to trade John Morant after some off-the-court issues and whatnot, kind of culminating up, and we'll get into this a little bit later as we keep talking, get further throughout the NBA offseason. We won't get into it too much here. But and a guy like Desmond Bane, a reliable shooter, one of those guys that doesn't miss a lot of games, and now going to a team in the Orlando Magic that have really needed offense, really needed a shooter to pair up with Paolo Banchero. That hole was glaring in the NBA playoffs against the Boston Celtics in the first round, and it was a big reason why the Magic couldn't get it done. A lot of those games were close in that first round series. A lot of them 5 to 10 point games. But what was the crucial factor at the end of the game? It was the play of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown getting it done, and then the defense that was played on Paolo. Their defense is incredible on Orlando. Their role play is incredible. They have a great coach, but they were missing that reliable number 2 option. Not only does it take pressure off of Franz, take pressure off of Paolo, but it allows the Orlando Magic to now create a big 3 over there. And honestly, do not be shocked if you see Orlando climb into the top 5, top 4 of the Eastern Conference next season.
Yeah, I do really like the fit here with Desmond Bane going to Orlando. This is kind of a Magic team that was out of balance, and it seems like Desmond Bane brings them a little more within balance. Great outside shooter, really good defender, underrated playmaker too, especially from that shooting guard position where you're not the primary facilitator, but you still want that guy to have a little bit of playmaking juice. Desmond Bane certainly has that. You take away his rookie year, he's averaged 20 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists in every single year, basically. That's his career averages. This is an excellent supplementary option. I just kind of question 4 first-round picks, and Cole Anthony, who's a younger reserve kind of guard. I think he's got a little bit of an untapped upside there, especially you kind of look at what he was in high school and what he was kind of considered to be at North Carolina. Then Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who his contract's a little bloated, but still a really, really solid defender at the shooting guard position, a little bit older, but a really great veteran presence to have at the shooting guard. It just seems like this is a lot to give up for a guy that's not really an all-star, could potentially be that kind of caliber player. But do you think this was too much to give up for Desmond Bane if you are Orlando?
I am a little bit worried about that. And off first glance, I said, oh my God, Orlando won this trade. Desmond Bane going to Orlando, like I said, just takes so much pressure and it'll rely on a much needed piece in that Orlando offense. Then I saw what they gave up, and it gave me a second of hesitation. 4 first-round picks. Cole Anthony, a guy who did have a little bit of a down year this year, but you said his high school days, he was a 5-star recruit going into college. At North Carolina, he wasn't that great, but he was still a decent player, good enough to get him into the NBA, get him drafted into the NBA. And now we saw his first year in the NBA he was in consideration for a rookie of the year. Second year, a little bit of a down year, but now he's going to Memphis. He's going to be in that new offense. If they now decide to keep Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., that's yet to be seen, and we can get into that on a later date. But the Memphis Grizzlies are now set up for the next few years now to be one of the top teams in the Western Conference. You have 4 first-round picks in the next 4 years, additionally to whatever extra you already have. You have 4 additional first-round picks. It gives you leeway to go after other big-name players. It allows you to build your team. This pretty much hit the reset button on the Memphis Grizzlies. Is that the route that they're looking to go? I personally thought they were going to start building that team around Desmond Bane and possibly get a big-name star for Ja Morant and using some of that draft capital to pair with Desmond Bane. With this new route, they might just hit the reset button on the entire thing. Get rid of Ja, get rid of Jaren Jackson Jr., get as much capital as you can, and just build the new team from the ground up. You have a new head coach there. You have a new system in place. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And you have Zach Edey and Taylor Wells, and Jalen Wells, who was one of the top 3, probably top 4 candidates for Rookie of the Year. So this is a great, young, promising team in Memphis, and this is just further cementing that.
Yeah, I really like this move from the Memphis side of things. You look at that team, they probably hit their ceiling with that big 3 of Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Desmond Bane. I just don't know how much further a team where those are your 3 best guys, I don't know how much further a team led by those 3 would really get. It gives you a little more flexibility, too. You have that Jaren Jackson potential looming extension that's going to come in. You're kind of lucky he didn't make All-NBA, did not win Defensive Player of the Year, because that would have been another tens of millions of dollars added to a potential contract extension for Jaren Jackson. So it seems like it's a little bit of a reset. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a full-blown rebuild going on in Memphis, but certainly a reset. I think you're going to look at them using this number 16 pick and then drafting some other guys with some of these future picks. You're going to build out that bench and make it a cheaper, younger, more flexible roster. And when you're looking at the Western Conference, it's going to be a crapshoot and really, really tough to compete in that league in the next probably 5 to 10 years. Looking at Wembanyama, maybe Cooper Flag coming in, the Rockets still there, the Thunder are still going to be there for the next 5 to 10 years. This is going to be a really tough Western Conference to compete in, so I kind of like the move from Memphis's point of view. But the other question I kind of have here is, does this mean that Ja Morant could be on the move too?
Yeah, I think this is a topic that has kind of gone under the radar. We saw Taylor Jenkins get fired, and when you look back at that, the last final game, the last couple games that Taylor Jenkins was coaching, you see John Morant all smiling. He was injured at the time, but smiling on the bench while his team was getting blown out. And there have been some reports that John Morant could have gotten him fired, could have gone into his front office and said, we're not happy with what Taylor Jenkins has done here, and we'd like him to be dismissed. I'm not saying that is the case, but there have been some rumors of that. Of course, this is the NBA. This is a professional organization. You're more than likely not going to see reports like this. But when you see the way that the Memphis Grizzlies were struggling at the time, losing 6 in a row, John Morant hurt, a lot of the guys just not stepping up to the normal way that we've seen them. There was a lot of rumors going around over there. And then we go into his off the court issues, which have been everywhere. We won't get into it too crazy. We've seen him using, what do we want to call it? What do we want to call it here,
Inappropriate
Jake?
gestures, certain
Inappropriate objects, certain items that are just pure inappropriate and just like things that the NBA is very concerned about. And that really got him, he got him suspended not once, not twice, but 3 different occasions that it got him suspended for it. So these are things that are continuously happening, and it's hurting the team. This is a guy in John Morant that brought this Grizzlies team, a similar, pretty much same team with Bane, Jackson, to the Western Conference semifinals, to the second round, where they lost to the Warriors in 2022. They brought that series to 6 games. This is a Grizzlies team that's been in the top tiers of the regular season, but consistently missing or failing to get past the first round for the last few years now, and just haven't fulfilled their expectations. That's the best way to say it. They have not lived up to their expectations in the playoffs. So with all of that, put that all together, and it's been going on for 5-6 years now, and you see John Morant's off the court issues kind of being an issue. You're gonna try it. I don't blame the Memphis Grizzlies for looking to move off of him, to try and bring in a star player to take his role, get as much value as they can from him, and then just try and rebuild this team. I'm just shocked that Desmond Bane is gone. I'm so serious when I said I thought Desmond Bane was the untouchable piece on this offense, because there are not guys like that. Guys like Desmond Bane just don't grow on trees. The way that he's able to shoot, the way he's able to defend, the way he's a perimeter defender, the position he plays, it's just a very rare player. So all around, it's a very shocking move tonight that happened today in Memphis.
Yeah, and I think obviously it kind of indicates that the Grizzlies here may be resetting a little bit. But on the other side of this, for Orlando, this is very much a win now move. And it's kind of surprising how aggressive they're being, considering I don't know if I would have considered the Magic being a team that was like a piece away, from really competing. Obviously, that's how they viewed themselves as being, if you're going to make an aggressive move like this, giving up 4 first-rounders for not even an all-star, a supplementary piece to this team. But when you look at the financials of this, he's got over $162 million owed to him over the next 4 seasons. You also have Franz Wagner, Jalen Suggs already have extensions. Paolo Banchero, he's going to need an extension, and he hasn't even gotten one yet. So this team quickly becomes very expensive for Orlando. I don't think they're going to be able to keep all of these guys past maybe next year or the 2 years after. I think this is like a 2-year window for Orlando. It's really surprising to me that they've kind of shortened their lifespan and their leash almost of sorts to pretty much 2 seasons compared to where I thought they probably had a little more time, a little more flexibility before making this move. Orlando's being very aggressive here, and I think it kind of indicates that they view themselves as being ready to make that jump to the next level much faster than we kind of see this across, the media, pundits, whoever you want to call it. I don't think anybody is kind of viewing Orlando as that team besides people in Orlando. And that's going to be something that we're going to have to watch out for. This is just the first domino to fall in what's going to be a crazy NBA offseason. But right now, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the other crazy blockbuster trade that happened today in the MLB. I'm sorry, Mehrob. It's a tough one, but we're going to get into Rafael Devers to the San Francisco Giants when we come back on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Hello and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented to you by the GSMC Podcast Network on this Sunday, June 15th. Your host, Jake Daley, here alongside my co-host, good friend, Mehrob Fatemi. We've got a tough segment for you. I know you're my Boston guy, but we're going to get into Rafael Devers being traded to the San Francisco Giants, all-star infielder, DH. Maybe I'm just going to give you the floor and let you take it, and you say whatever you would like about this trade. I am sure you got some thoughts here.
I was getting ready to talk about the Orlando Magic trade today. I was getting ready to talk all the good sports, College World Series, PGA. It was going to be a great Sunday. I see the Red Sox beat the Yankees today. They sweep them in the regular season series. I see Rafael Devers hit a home run in today's game. I see the Red Sox get a win over 500. They're now 37-36, trying to climb back into the playoff race. Things are starting to change again in Boston after all the injuries and everything that's happened over there. And then I don't even get an hour before the show. I don't even get 1 hour where I have to just sit here and you have to look at me like this. I said at the beginning of the show, I was doing great until an hour ago. I was doing great until an hour ago. When the news came out from Jeff Passan, basically the Woj of ESPN when it comes to baseball, dropping an absolute nuclear bomb on the MLB. Rafael Devers is now a San Francisco Giant. And it feels like I'm reliving the same nightmare all over again from 4 years ago. If you guys don't know, there was a guy by the name of Mookie Betts that used to play baseball for the Red Sox. A guy that brought a World Series title to Boston in 2018. A guy that was beloved around all of Boston. You walk around Boston, you see the number 56 with Betts written everywhere. You'll see it around. Even today, you'll still see it. But you saw it 8 out of 10 baseball MLB jerseys, Red Sox jerseys that you saw were Betts guys. You had Bogarts, you had Bennett, you had Rafi, and you had Devers. You let Betts go for a bag of chips and Alex Verdugo. All right, we let it go. He's going to the Dodgers. We let it go. We were upset, but we let it go. You let Xander Bogaerts go to the Padres. Remember Xander Bogaerts, that shortstop that was one of the all MLB guys, one of the best
I know Xander
guys
Bogaerts.
We let him go. Why? Because we wanted to pay Rafi his money. We said, oh, we love Xander, but we see he's getting older. We don't mind. Sure, let him. We were upset about it, but we let him go to the Padres. He's there now. We signed Devers to a contract. We get Durant. We see some improvement from this team over the last 2 years. Even though last year, we saw 2 years ago, they made a deep run in the playoffs. This year, they add Alex Bregman to the roster. They keep Durant. They keep Devers. They improved their pitching. We said this is one of those teams that's going to make it to the World Series if they stay healthy. Injuries at the beginning of the year, I get it. It's a long year. They start turning around. Like I said, they just swept the New York Yankees, the number 1 team in the AL East, one of the best teams in the MLB. Swept them. Rafi hits a home run. And now, 4 hours later, Rafael Devers is a San Francisco Giant. And this is now the third guy that is beloved in Boston, one of those guys that you just never want to see go, one of those guys that you expected to finish his career with Boston is now gone. He's with another team, and nobody deserved it. I guarantee you this news, and I'll let you talk about this, Jake. But honestly, I'll give the baton to you because I'm worked up right now. I'm giving it to you to discuss how this went down and why you think why this went down.
Hey, all I'll say is welcome to the club of getting your best players traded every 2 seasons. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a great time, isn't it? No, but the other thing too here, the Boston Red Sox extended Rafael Devers. A little unlike Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts, they didn't want to give him that money. So that was kind of the main reason that they got rid of him there in Boston. Rafael Devers, you gave him a big-time extension already. This was a guy that was locked up for the next 8 seasons in Boston. And it kind of seems on surface level to be a baffling move from the Red Sox. Really, the only thing that I can kind of think of that may be a reason for them moving off of Devers is the positional kind of argument that has been ongoing, right? We saw in the offseason, once they sign Alex Bregman, there's kind of conversations about Devers moving to first. There's conversations about him just moving around the field, right? He doesn't want to kind of do with that. He did not want to go to first base. He wanted to be a DH pretty much full time. Okay, whatever. If that's the case, you let that guy just be a DH. I understand you don't want to pay $30-40 million to a guy that's only going to bat. But at the same time, he's your most dangerous hitter. He's a guy that's locked in long term that can be a middle of the order type of bat for you. A huge impact guy. It just kind of seems like it might be a minor issue to move off of Rafael Devers for. I'm not sure if there's other things besides the positional kind of argument. I'm not sure if there's other things going on in that locker room. But at first glance, this is really kind of baffling to me. And you look at the AL East was kind of wide open. Yes, New York, the Yankees were in first, but Baltimore not having a great year. The Blue Jays are up there, but this was a wide open division for Boston. It almost kind of seems like this is either standing pat or just kind of mailing it in for this year. Whereas you look at the Giants in second place in the NL West, kind of unexpectedly. I don't know if any of us really thought that they would be a 40-plus win team at this point in the season. Now you add a guy in Rafael Devers, who's a huge impact power bat. That's massive for the Giants, and you have him locked up. The Giants, it's kind of been one of their issues the past few years of not being able to get those big-time stars in free agency. You look at Aaron Judge, with him almost going there at one point. You look at what happened with Carlos Correa almost going to the Giants at one point a few years ago. Now, you have a guy in Rafael Devers that you didn't even have to go chase after in free agency. All you have to do, give up a couple of older arms for a third baseman, a DH, whatever he's going to play, a guy that's going to be there for 8-9 years, hit at least 250, and probably have 25 home runs every single year at the minimum. That's a big win for the Giants, and I don't really think they had to give up a whole lot for this. So it kind of just seems like it's a baffling move from Boston. Mehrob, I don't know if you have any other comments here. If I know it's a tough topic to talk about, though.
No. The last thing I want to bring up is you kind of touched on it at the end there, what they gave up for Rafael Devers. I said what they gave up for Mookie Betts, and like I said, that's why that Mookie Betts trade was so painful to see. Not only did you give up if not the best player in the world at the time, you give him up for a guy like Alex Verdugo, who just stayed on the team for 2 years and you ended up trading him. And then the rest of the guys that you got out of the deal ended up not panning out whatsoever. This, I could smell the stench of it already through the phone because it's the same exact nightmare all over again. You get a guy in Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks is one of the, do not get me wrong, Jordan Hicks, before the season started, you expected him in San Francisco to have a good year. We saw him what he did with the Blue Jays, having a sub 3.5 ERA, one of the better pitchers in the MLB. Signs with the Giants in the offseason. Do you know what his ERA is right now, Jake?
I do not.
6.5. 6.5 right now. You get him. You get 2 minor league guys, one of which I don't think is going to make it to the MLB. One of them who's in AA or triple A's right now. And then I think there's another player. I think they got a second baseman by the name of Kyle Harrison, sorry. So you're telling me the Red Sox gave up one of the best hitters in the MLB, a guy that was in the running for hitting the most home runs this year, one of the guys that he has been having a little bit of issues with front office, but nonetheless, nobody saw this coming. Nobody expected it. There was no news that Rafi was even that upset with them. He was upset that he was getting put on first base instead of on DH. That's what he was upset about. And part of that reason was like I said, injuries. The injuries to Tristan Casas, to Alex Bregman. These are injuries that completely derailed half of what the expectations for this team. You add a pitcher, cool. Jordan Hicks, 6.5 ERA, like I said. And like you said, they didn't even need to give up that much. This, in my opinion, this puts San Francisco in contention for the World Series. I always thought San Francisco was a great team in the MLB this year, but this took them from here to here. This puts them in contention with the New York Mets. This puts them in contention with the Los Angeles Dodgers. That is how good the San Francisco Giants just got, and we're going to see him again in 5 days when the Red Sox play the Giants. So this is going to be an ongoing story, but all around, this is just painful to see as a Red Sox fan. And it just feels like we're making the same mistakes as we used to. You said the AL East looks wide open. Do you know the Red Sox beat the Yankees 5 out of 6 times already? Won both series and just swept them today? Mm-hmm. All around, this is painful to see as a Red Sox fan. I hope you've never experienced this, Jake, because it is one of the worst feelings, and it happens way too often in Boston. So I'm going to leave it on that note. I'm emotional right now, and I'm sorry to everybody that has to hear this.
Unfortunately, I have seen this movie many, many times, being from Cleveland, where we cannot pay any of our athletes anything. I have seen this once or twice. It is always painful to see some of your guys just not end up being there when you thought they would be for a decade plus. But we're going to see if the Giants are going to be able to take advantage of this trade in getting absolute impact middle of the order bat in Rafael Devers. Will that catapult them to the top of the MLB? Like Mehrob thinks, we're going to have to wait and find out. It certainly makes that NL West much more interesting and intriguing to watch out for throughout the rest of this summer. Right now, though, we're going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to switch our gears and put our spotlight on New York and the Big Apple and talk about the Jets looking to extend two of their big building blocks in Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner. We're going to dive into that when we come back on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented to you by the GSMC Podcast Network on this Sunday, June 15th. We just touched on some big blockbuster trades in Rafael and in Desmond Bane to Orlando. Also, we're going to touch on the U.S. Open. It just finished, 64-foot putt to win it there. Absolutely incredible, JioSaavn. But we're going to dive into that later on in the show. Right now, I want to touch on New York and the Jets and them apparently looking to extend, I think, their two biggest cornerstones in Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner. Sounds like they're at least going to try. We don't know if this is actually going to happen. This is the first year that both of these guys are eligible for an extension. Not super shocking news, I would say, but certainly positive. Mehrob, what do you kind of think about the Jets looking to extend these guys? Are they good moves? And what are your kind of overall thoughts?
I think these two guys in Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson are kind of the two cornerstones of this team, one on the offensive end and the other on the defensive end. You had Aaron Rodgers that kind of brought Garrett Wilson, that kind of introduced him to the spotlight in New York. You end up losing him, but bringing in a Justin Fields, that will be a vital threat for Justin Fields, and Garrett Wilson will be utilized a bunch. If I'm the Jets, I'm 100% re-signing him to an extension, especially after how he's played throughout his career. He's had multiple 1,000-yard seasons. He's relatively healthy for the most part. Hasn't had any serious injuries. You look at Sauce Gardner, that's just Garrett Wilson. On the other side, you have a guy in Sauce Gardner who's honestly across the league known as one of the lockdown corners in the league, a top 5 cornerback, and honestly, those do not grow on trees. When you have guys that are comparing Sauce Gardner to Jalen Ramsey, one of the best cornerbacks in NFL history, that is something you cannot compete. You cannot compare. That stuff just doesn't come on like it's free. So you 100% re-sign both of these guys, and you continue to build. If I'm the Jets, I look to build both of the lines, the offensive and the defensive line in the draft. Sign both of these guys to extensions and beef up both of those lines, because that's how you improve this team, in my opinion.
Yeah, I am a fan of them trying to extend both of these guys. Personally, I think you try to go for Sauce Gardner first. Get that extension done first. The cornerbacks, it's kind of a tricky market, especially when you look at Derek Stingley Jr. from Houston, just signed a 3-year, $90 million deal earlier this offseason. I think that's going to be kind of a comparable deal for what we're going to see for Sauce Gardner. But Sauce Gardner, you talk about, this was a guy that was basically playing at an all-pro level as a rookie, coming out of Cincinnati. high first round draft pick, and has lived up to pretty much every expectation. Has really fit New York, that identity. He's got a little flash as a player. New York, obviously, it's where the spotlights are the brightest, right? That's just kind of how it goes over there on the East Coast. I know you're a Boston guy. It's all kind of the same thing. It's all bright lights, big cities, similar vibes, right? But Sauce Gardner, I think this is the guy that you certainly look to lock down first. Garrett Wilson. And I will say I'm one of the biggest Garrett Wilson fans. I've followed Garrett Wilson since 2017 when he was a sophomore in high school coming out of Texas. I've known this kid for a long, long time in Garrett Wilson. He certainly deserves money. Over 1,000 yards in each of his first 3 seasons. Me personally, I'm not a huge fan of extending wide receivers before you kind of have a quarterback in place. I think it's going to be really interesting seeing him paired back up with Justin Fields, who was obviously his quarterback for a season or two at Ohio State. That's going to be a really fun connection for me, I think, just kind of seeing those two guys link back up. I just don't know what's Garrett Wilson worth, I guess. They kind of suggested that DK Metcalf's contract could be a comparison here for Garrett Wilson, but that's basically over $30 million a year. Do you think that's valid for Garrett Wilson? I don't know. It kind of seems like an overpay at some point, but I'm also a really big fan of him too, so I'd be like, give this dude his money. I think he's worth it. But I think there's certainly an argument there, though, that maybe you kind of hold off on at least one extension.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one thing that's kind of sticks out when I'm thinking about Garrett Wilson, he's one of those guys that's going to be the future of the NFL. He's incredibly young. He's entering his prime right now. That $30 million a year mark is a little bit of an overpay. I completely agree with that. I would like him hanging closer to $25, $24 million a year. I think it would just help. It would be a team-friendly deal. It would allow the Jets to have some more cap space to add some more players. And if you wanted to just do $24, $25 million guaranteed and add the rest in bonuses, I think it would allow Garrett Wilson to kind of grow as a player and and kind of work for those bonuses, if that makes sense. I already know he's one of the best players one of the best wide receivers in the league. He's easily top 15, if not closer to top 10 right now. But if he can get on, if it's a money issue right now, I can 100% see what's going on in New York. Do you want to give him that overpay? Do you want to roll the dice that it's possibly going to be an overpay? I don't see him entering the top 5 conversation. I don't see him entering a Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. He might be better. He's probably better than DK Metcalf, but he's not in the top 5 conversation yet. He has to still prove that he can get to that level. But I think you give him that I think that $25 million mark really suits him, and the Jets can just work off of everything else from there. Just give him something like that and then work from there.
What do you think we're going to see out of this Jets team? Because honestly, I frankly have no idea. We have a brand new quarterback in Justin Fields. We have a brand new head coach in Aaron Glenn. You have a line that's kind of in flux. You still have Garrett Wilson there. You have Sauce Gardner there. But some of the other pieces here are certainly question marks, I would say. What do you think we're going to see out of this Jets team? Because frankly, I have no clue what they're going to look like.
Yeah, this team is either going to be 7-10 or 4-13, probably somewhere around that mark. I could see them going between 4 and 7 wins. I don't see them climbing into the playoff race. I don't see them being in contention for the division. I personally think they're going to fall to 4th. I think this isn't even a bias thing. I just think the Patriots' young talent might just be better than the Jets. They still have Breece Hall. They still have Justin Fields, who's an incredible young quarterback. I am very, very concerned about that offensive line, though, in New York. a couple players. They lost a player to the Detroit Lions. They lost a couple players to free agency this year on that offensive line, and it's incredibly thin. The defensive line is definitely a little bit better, but when I'm looking at this team, I'm just incredibly worried about how they're going to be able to protect Justin Fields. And in a way, I feel a little bit bad for Justin Fields because this is going to be the same thing that he's seen. He saw it in the days with Chicago where they weren't able to protect him. It was a little bit better in Pittsburgh, and he got a little bit better. He got a little bit better with using his legs. But as a whole, I'm looking to see them use Garrett Wilson in the passing game, see how they'll use him. Are they going to use him downfield? Are they going to use him in the slot a little bit more often? That's going to be interesting to see. I just don't think this team gets bit more than 7 plus wins, 7 wins. I just don't see it.
See, here's where I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. Yes, the Jets line is a little shaky. How about your Pats, though? I think that, or the Boston area, I know you're not a Patriots fan, but you're from that area. That Patriots line, I think, is shakier than this Jets offensive line. You look at the Jets, still have Olofashanu, drafted Armand Membu this year, too. You still have a couple solid pieces there for that Jets offensive line. Patriots, it's going to be a little shaky there. Yes, you bring in Mike Vrabel as your head coach. You have Drake May. You have maybe a refocused Stephon Diggs. That's still a little bit of a question mark there. But you have a couple other options. I don't know if they're going to overtake the Jets, though, this year. I think the Jets still perform a little better than New England. The floor certainly is higher for the Patriots this year with Mike Vrabel as their head coach. I think it's interesting, though, what's going to happen. What if Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson go Ohio State 2020 throwback, 3,500 passing yards for Justin Fields, another 1,000 on the ground, 40 total touchdowns. The Jets win 12 games. It's a miracle season. I can't even get through that without laughing. But I don't know, I mean, I think there's a little more talent here, though, than people probably give the Jets credit for. I think you certainly need to look to extend both of these guys. There's not a ton of elite blue chip young talent guys on the Jets roster, I would think. I don't know if you disagree with that one, but it seems like these are two guys that you have to lock down if you're the Jets, because you can't afford to let Garrett Wilson or Sauce Gardner walk. Think of the hope that would be even more lost for that Jets fan base that there hasn't been a whole lot of hope to begin with anyways. I just think you can't let either of these guys walk if you're the Jets, frankly, for me. Do you see any way that they somehow let one of these guys go, or two of them? Do you think there's a potential way? Because think about at one point last year, when Rodgers was the quarterback, there was kind of conversations of if he's still the quarterback in 2025, Garrett Wilson may want out. Do you see any kind of scenario where one of these two dudes is not on the New York Jets in the near future?
I personally don't think so, just because of how much revenue those two guys get. They're fan favorites. They're big time. They're top 10 in both of their positions. I personally think the Jets need as much star talent as they can get, and those are your two money makers right there. Those are your two guys that people will go through the turnstiles. Of course, it's a cornerback. You wouldn't think as much, but he's definitely one of those premier guys on the defensive end of the ball that people want to see, and it gives people hope that you're still going to be relevant. I personally don't think they will, but we'll see how it all shakes out. I think the one thing that really bothers me with this Jets organization, it's not that they got rid of Rodgers, but it was the way that they handled all the the coaching situations over there. Bringing in Bob Albrecht in the middle of the year, firing Robert Saleh mid-season. And honestly, what was a firing that I personally still don't agree with to this day. I think Robert Saleh should still be the coach over there, and if he was, I could see their defense being in a much better situation than it is right now. Obviously, Aaron Glenn is still incredibly experienced, was just with the Detroit Lions for a while. So I think everything is still going to shake out fine. But in terms of front office, in terms of how the staffing is going to end up, the contract situations, I expect them both to be under contract before week 1 is here. We still have a few months to go. Just as a whole, I'm just worried about how much talent they have and if they can get over the hump with what they have.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year for the Jets. We'll see if these guys do end up signing before the start of the season. I don't know if both of them do end up signing. I think if anything, we might see one extension this offseason. I don't know if we see 2. It'd be a lot of fun if there were 2, but I don't know if the logistics of that would kind of crunch or put a hamper on that front office there. It's certainly very possible. Right now, though, we're going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Stanley Cup and about that Game 5 and what's going to happen for the rest of this series. So stick around and stay with us here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Hello and welcome back. Wow, that was a voice crack. That just made me feel like I was like 13 years old when you first get a good voice crack there in about 6th or 7th grade. That's just how I sounded right there. So I apologize to all of our viewers for that little, I don't even know what you want to call that, whatever that sound I made was. But we're moving on. We're going to talk a little bit now about the Stanley Cup. Game 5, Panthers kind of dominating, and a game that they absolutely really kind of needed, especially after giving up blowing that lead in Game 4, that 3-0 lead. You needed to see a response from Florida, and we certainly did. Mehrob, what do you kind of think of Game 5? Just give me your overall thoughts and just about what happened, kind of how that game went.
Yeah, I think Game 5 solidified that if the Panthers win this series, just hand the MVP trophy to Brad Marchand. Can we just give that a done deal? This is nothing like...
It's my favorite recurring theme. You and Brad Marchand.
It's true. Tell me I'm wrong. Every time, we don't know how good he's going to be. He's showed up in big moments time and time again. Game 5 last night was so crucial for the Edmonton Oilers. They come off a big Game 4 win, especially the comeback that they had. It felt like they had all the momentum going back to Edmonton. It felt like they were finally back in the driver's seat, especially as they were favored to win last night as well. Game 5 on your home ice. If you lose, you're going back on the road and facing elimination. You would need to win 2 straight games to bring the cup back home to Canada. It's something that hasn't happened in 34 years. Something that Canada fans, not just Edmonton, but Canada fans all around the world are waiting to see, to bring the Stanley Cup back to that home country. It just looked like the Florida Panthers showed up last night with so much intensity, so much. They looked like they like a team that was on fire, ready to make a statement. And they did exactly that. Showed up in the first 20 minutes, took a 2-0 lead. And even though the final score was 5-2, the Panthers never looked back. They had control of this game from start to finish. And like I said, it's all been the driver's seat of Brad Marchand, scoring in 4 out of 5 games, 2 goals last night. What is this? It's now 7 goals in this series. Off the top of my head, I believe he's had a phenomenal series through and through. And yeah, if the Panthers end up winning this series and close this thing out in Game 6, he's going to get named the MVP. It's just a done deal. He's been so valuable to this team in the playoffs, and he's proved his worth. This is why the Panthers went ahead and traded for him in the midseason trade. Not because they weren't worried about his age. They weren't worried about possible slippage. They knew he was going to show up in the big moments, and he's done exactly that. Props to Brad Marchand. Props to Sergei Bobrovsky having a comeback game after struggling a little bit in Game 4, coming back on the road in enemy territory and taking a big game. The Panthers are solidified in the driver's seat, and I'm picking the Panthers to finish this series up back in Florida.
Yeah, no, and for all of my joking about you and Brad Marchand, you do have a very legitimate point here. Brad Marchand, 10 goals in the playoffs, 6 in the Stanley Cup series. The last player to score 6 goals in the Stanley Cup final came in 1988. Esa Tikkanen. I'm definitely mispronouncing that last name. I'm definitely butchering it, but that's okay. We're going to roll on. But you look at what Brad Marchand has done. It's been absolutely incredible, and you're right. This is why they went out and get a guy like Brad Marchand at the deadline. For moments like this, for crunch time in the playoffs, when you want to leave on a guy that's got so much veteran experience and leadership that's crucial to their success right now. I also want to talk about Sam Bennett, though. Sam Bennett, leading player in the NHL across the playoffs for goal scoring. 15 goals in the playoffs. Also has scored in his 6th straight road game in the playoffs. This is a guy that's coming up clutch when it really matters in places where it's incredibly hostile. Him and Marchand also the first teammates in over 50 years to each score at least 5 goals in the Stanley Cup. I think that's absolutely incredible. First pair of teammates in over 50 seasons to both have at least 5 goals in a Stanley Cup just shows you what a tear those two guys are on. Other storylines here. Connor McDavid finally getting his first goal. We did talk about this yesterday. We were like, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? Well, we got our answer last night. Connor McDavid gets his first goal of the series in the 3rd period. However, it comes at a time when it was already 3-0 Florida. And then any hope of a comeback, it ended when Sam Reinhart scores 46 seconds later. Really just ending any kind of hope there for Connor McDavid in Edmonton to kind of jumpstart another crazy comeback here. I also think it's interesting that Florida dominated this first period again. They took a 3-0 lead after the first period in Game 4, and then they do something very similar last night where they carry a 2-0 lead going into the second period. What do you think that Edmonton has to do here to potentially make this a series, to tie this up in Game 6 on the road too, and have a chance to send this to a Game 7? What do the Oilers have to do here?
Well, Jake, I think there's one thing that kind of glares out when we're looking at all these games, and we take a package, we take an overview look at these first 5 games of this series. The Oilers need to punch first. They need to take the lead first and not come back. They don't need to always scratch and claw for a comeback. They don't always need to worry that their goalie has to be a brick wall in net and be superhuman for the Oilers to have a chance in this series, to have a chance at coming back to win games. I know they're the comeback kids, and they have 7 overtime. They have 7 comeback wins in this playoffs alone. They have 2 already in this series. But when we're looking at this Panthers team, these are the defending champs. This is a team that if you let them score first in Game 6, they will close that game out. They did it in Game 7 last year back in Edmonton. They will do the same thing to you in Florida. If you're Edmonton, you have to strike first, and you have to take a 2-0 lead going into the second period, going midway through the second period. Have a double-digit goal, have a multi-goal lead if you can, because it will put the pressure on Florida and will let you guys. I'm not saying you guys will be able to skate freely, but it'll take some of that pressure off. It'll make everything just run much more smoothly. That's what you need to do. You need to take advantage of the goal scoring early on. You need to punch first and just hold the lead. You've been able to come back in games. All you need to do now is hold leads. That's the goal. That's my advice to the Edmonton Oilers. And I'm not saying that they have no chance. No way. This has been a phenomenal series. This has been back and forth. We've seen 3 overtimes so far in this series. We've seen more overtime games than we have seen full 60-minute games. That just tells you the tale of this series. It's been incredibly close. Back and forth we've gone. And this is just the latest instance of it. The Florida Panthers are going to be ready to go in Game 6. It's going to be who shows up for the Edmonton Oilers. We're going to need another Connor McDavid Game 7 halftime speech before that Game 6. He's going to need to get those guys ready to go because the season depends on it.
Yeah, I just think it's funny because the more I watch this Edmonton team, the more I legitimately question if they have to be behind to kind of get pumped up and actually win these games, because we see them every single game, it seems like, get down, and that's when they kind of wake up. It seems like they almost have to be down, kind of. And I don't know, that there's definitely not a lot of weight there to what I'm saying. I just think it's more kind of interesting that this Edmonton team, it seems like they need to be behind in order for that flip to kind of be switched, which is something you don't really see a lot. They're going to have to change that mindset. They have to be more aggressive. And I think you're right. They do have to get out to an early lead here in Game 6 if they want to have a chance to win and tie it up and send this to a Game 7. Edmonton's got to be more aggressive. We'll see if Connor McDavid finally, after breaking that drought, are we going to see him kind of really up his scoring output? I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of what happens. If it's a score one, score many kind of deal there. But Edmonton's got to get something going. If it's Connor McDavid, if it's Leon Draisaitl, one of those two, if it's an Evander Kane, Nugent Hopkins, somebody has to score a goal early on and take some of this pressure off of the Oilers, put it on the Panthers. I think if they're able to do that, this is going to be a really interesting Game 6 and potentially one that Edmonton can steal and send it to a Game 7. That's a lot there, though. And it's already been a great series. I think it's going to continue to be a great series in this Game 6 coming up. Right now, though, we're going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to switch gears to my sport in college football and talk about the transfer portal. Could it potentially be moving to one window? We're going to dive into that, get into the arguments for and against when we come back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Hello, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Daley, alongside my good friend co-host, Mehrob Fatemi. We're rolling along on this Sunday night, Sunday evening, Sunday afternoon, I don't know, wherever you are, whatever time you subscribe to. We're here. We're live. That's what matters, though. I want to switch gears. I want to talk a little bit about the world of college athletics. Obviously, with the House settlement coming down, that's a big overarching seismic change to college athletics and how it's going to operate as a whole. Now it's coming out today that there's a lot of momentum for college football to move to one transfer portal window. At the SEC meetings last month, Georgia football coach Kirby Smart, he said this was the biggest decision that had to be made in college football right now by far to him, which I think that's pretty indicative of how big this is of an issue for these football coaches, for the players, for pretty much everybody around college football. So during a call next Monday, the first meeting since the House settlement's approval, the FBS Oversight Committee, they're expected to have a really deep discussion on one single portal. The hope and the thought is that they may move to one portal in January, early January, kind of right around the end of the football season. Mehrob, what do you think about this? Do you think, first of all, should they move to one transfer portal window, one period? And then secondly, when do you think that would be if there is kind of only one portal? What would your kind of opinion, when would you want that to be?
I think I honestly like the idea of being right after the college football season. It doesn't allow a lot of teams to go talk to players, money. They would still probably try to do that in the middle of the season. Month of January, these especially top teams are going to be fighting in the middle of the playoffs and trying to get to that national title game. These are going to be the players that are going to be in the middle of that transfer portal are going to be the guys that are at home, the guys that are not in the middle of bowl games, the guys that are from smaller colleges that did not end up making it. And that is something that we're seeing ramping up more and more. And I think that's a big reason why the NCAA is starting to push this, because they want to stop some of these smaller schools. They want to keep things competitive instead of letting the big names of small schools just walk away into a bigger market. That's what continues to happen in the NCAA, in the college football market, and across the NCAA in general. I think this is a good move. I think it just helps everything stay organized. It doesn't make things as crowded and as crazy as they have been these last few years since the transfer portal has been introduced. I think the one goal that college football needs to fix, like I said, the one thing that they're trying to fix is just trying to keep these small schools relevant in college football. Let the smaller schools in the MAC keep going. Let the guys in the Big 12, in the second half of the Big 12, stay relevant. Some of those big name players that come out of those schools, a lot of them just go to a big name school like an LSU, like an Ohio State. They just transfer out, and then these smaller schools are left to defend and deal with the empty hole that was left over. So I think that is the goal of college football now. It's just going to be interesting to see how it all pans out.
Yeah, I think one of the kind of interesting aspects of it potentially being in January too is this overlap with the college football playoff. We saw last year there was an issue, especially at Penn State. They had multiple opt outs. Notre Dame had a couple. They're pretty much every college football program that was in the college football playoff had opt outs of the tournament because these guys were entering the portal, because it was opening right at the exact same time, essentially. There was one player who talked to The Athletic when they were kind of discussing this topic. He had said that he was going to try to visit Ohio State, going to go to Columbus, but he couldn't. That visit was canceled because during that time, Ohio State's in the college football playoff. They're still competing. So there was no way for him to do his transfer visit just to even look at Ohio State. I think that's kind of going to be an interesting aspect here is where do they draw the line? Where do you push this window to? Because also, when you look at the academic part of this, yes, these kids still are in college, still attend classes. That's kind of the whole big thing here about college football is being in college. You have semesters ending, you have quarters for some institutions. So in terms of that, in terms of enrolling kids from the transfer portal, you also have to deal with that. I do like the idea of a January window, though. I think it's a little bit better than the alternative, which would be around May. Now, around May, the argument here is that, yes, you're kind of done with the academic calendar at that point. Once May hits, schools are done for that semester. I personally don't like it. I just think it crunches your ability to compete when you're a football team. If you look at these kids, if you're coming in May and you have to perform in August, think of Nico Iamaleava going to UCLA in April, and now at UCLA he's got to learn an entire new offense, has to get acclimated with brand new skill position guys, all in like 3-4 months. That's a really, really tight time frame. It hurts coaches, it hurts players. I think it hurts programs in the long term too. When you're looking at locker room, team building, just the level of play, the knowledge that these guys have of playbooks, of schemes, I think everything, it would make a lot more sense to kind of go in a January type window. What do you think? What are your thoughts on potential May window? It sounds like there is a lot of momentum here for January, but say the pendulum swings, shifts. If we end up with a May window, what do you kind of think about that possibility?
I personally don't like it, and I think you're 100%. You hit the nail on the head. There's a reason why these guys are not just named athletes, because they're not just athletes. They're not there to just play sports. These are students. These are people that are still in college to get a degree. There might be some of them that are planning to play in the NFL, but not all of them are like this. A lot of them are finishing their football careers and just stopping. They're going to complete their career and not go past college. These guys May is the month when finals are taking place. May is the month when you're looking to pick your classes for next year, figure out summer plans, what you have going on, if you have to take a summer class or whatnot. There is so much going on. Graduation is in the month of May. There is so much for most institutions. There is so much going on in the month of May that I think if you added a transfer portal period, that entire thing would not only turn off any student that was trying to go to transfer somebody else, it would upset professors, it would upset chancellors, it would upset institutions. Some, for example, a Princeton or a Harvard that takes their work so seriously. There are so many schools out there that take their schoolwork, and every college does. There's a reason that you have to have a minimum GPA to even play sports. So all of that together, If they were to put a transfer portal in the month of May, it just wouldn't make sense in the student athlete calendar. It might make sense in terms of who would be the allure and who would be covering it, the reporting side of things. Maybe it might affect that and make college football more relevant in the month of May and keep it spiced up. In the middle, January is the end of the season, month of May it's a transfer portal, and then August is when it begins all over again. It's kind of in the middle, so it keeps things relevant and in the swing. But it messes with a lot of student athletes' time. If you were to do it in the month of April, in the month of March. Don't do May. It just doesn't make sense. So avoid May I'm with you, and just avoid May. It makes no sense.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say here with the potential of a May spring-esque portal here, if they instituted something like that, then we could see another change here around spring football, where you add almost like OTA style practices to the college football calendar. Right now, you're allowed to practice 15 times in the spring. There's potential discussions about adding 6 more practices, but you can spread them out essentially from January to June if you have that spring portal. I don't love that either. I think you've already extended this college football season so much with the expansion of the playoffs, with potential play-in games. You look at what Ohio State, Notre Dame, they had to play 16 games essentially to win the national championship to get to their end of the season. I don't know if adding even more practices is a reasonable answer to me. I think that just adds a lot more unnecessary mental, physical strain on these athletes, where you're already kind of cutting into their calendars, it seems like. I'm a little concerned, honestly, about the mental health of these student athletes, frankly. When you have these portals, there's so much going on, and it's really hard to kind of stay focused, stay grounded, especially if you have multiple windows. I think it's really kind of a concerning aspect of this whole new era of college athletics. I don't know if you have any kind of thoughts on that, not to spin it into a more serious kind of conversation here, but I'm just frankly a little concerned, honestly, for some of these student athletes.
100%. It's a legitimate concern. That's why I'm saying the month of May just doesn't work for some of these players. It's an extra stress in a month, especially at the end of the year. At least I'm a recent graduate, so I'm going to speak for myself, and I think I'm speaking for a lot of people. Maybe you as well, Jake. If I'm wrong on this, let me know. Especially with people that are busy, with athletics, with jobs outside of school, with other things that are going on outside of the world of school. There are some people that are like, in the month of February and March, when the start of the semester goes on, they take a step back, they focus on what's going on, they shape their schedule, and then take it much more seriously as they get into late March, early April. The month of May is when a lot of people focus so much time, final projects, final exams. There's so much going on in the month of May that you're going to add a transfer portal on top of all of this and expect them to fly across the country, state to state, just to transfer to your school. It's not only going to make people not want to transfer, it's just going to make things more hectic. And like I said, I just don't think some institutions are going to push back against this and say students are here not to just be athletes, but to be students. So with all of that combined, go in the month of January. If it already has a lot of steam, if a lot of people like it, just stick to it. It makes more sense. Winter break, everything in between, it just makes sense in that month versus a chaotic month like May.
Well, you certainly heard our opinions here on this topic of what's going to happen with the transfer portal window. We're going to take another short break now. When we come back, we're going to talk about golf. I love golf. I'm not very good at golf, but it's fun. And we're going to talk about the U.S. Open that just finished up in Oakmont, Pennsylvania. Gonna preview kind of what happened and go over really an interesting U.S. Open. So we're going to dive into all of that, though, when we come back on the GSMC Sports Podcast. Welcome back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Today is Sunday, June 15th. Yeah, tomorrow's Monday, unfortunately, but that's okay, because we had the U.S. Open today in a phenomenal tournament overall. Absolutely incredible, taking place at Oakmont Country Club. The winner, JioSaavn, after shooting 2 over today, comes in the winner at -1. Only 1 under is the winner of the U.S. Open. Incredible. And then you look at some of the top scores here. Robert McIntyre from Scotland came in second, +1. Victor Hovland kind of hovering around there. He came in at third. You had the leader from yesterday, Sam Burns. He shot +8 today, coming in, finishing at +4. Really had a big tumble here. JioSaavn, if you look at his last hole on 18, sinking an incredible 64-foot chip, and then it just rolled in for birdie. What are your kind of overall thoughts here on this U.S. Open in an incredibly tough course where we only saw the winner get under par? What are your kind of thoughts here, Mehrob?
Yeah, what a U.S. Open we saw. You described it perfectly. An incredibly tough course, an incredibly tight race, and it took a JioSaavn 64-foot putt to ice it, and for him to go -1 and win the whole thing. What a phenomenal tournament we saw! And if this is going to be if this is the new state of the U.S. Open, the new bloods, as we want to call it, the younger guys, the new generation of golf that's coming to play, JioSaavn's going to be around for a while, and I can't wait to see him when he hits Augusta National later this summer.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting storylines here too is Rory McIlroy kind of really having a tough round, or a tough tournament, I would say, overall. Getting frustrated with the media at points. 1 point shooting +10. He kind of called his play pretty average, and Rory has been playing some phenomenal golf. So do you think this might have just kind of been a blip here of Oakmont was really tough this week for these guys? Do you think Rory's going to be able to bounce back here, kind of going into next month, going into the Open and some of these other major tournaments? What do you kind of see happening here out of Rory McIlroy?
Expect Rory McIlroy to kind of step up. Another guy that I'm kind of looking at to have a little bit of a better tournament. Saw Scotty Scheffler finish +4 on the day, or in the tournament. Tied for 7th, so it wasn't too bad. But this is a guy in Scotty Scheffler that you normally like to see, or expect to see, closer in the top 3, top 4 of most bigger tournaments. You bring up Rory McIlroy, like you said, finished +7. That is a guy that I expected to show up a little bit closer to the top 2. He's just like Scotty Scheffler, Brandon Koepka. All these guys are kind of in a tier of their own. Maybe that's because they've been around for a while, but Oakmont definitely was a tough course this weekend. And with the U.S. Open coming right around the corner, this is the game of golf, and sometimes you just have bad tournaments. You have some time to relax, and then you have the U.S. Open right around the corner. I expect these guys to bounce back.
Yeah, and you bring up Scotty Scheffler too, kind of having a tough tournament, not something that we've grown accustomed to seeing out of Scotty Scheffler, number 1 player in the world right now, kind of beelining it to the driving range after his round on Friday, seemed to be frustrated with something going on in his swing. Not really sure what exactly he saw there. I am not nearly a good enough golfer to give expert opinion advice here on what exactly Scotty Scheffler, the number 1 player in the world, saw wrong with his swing. My swing is poor enough, so I can't even, I can't be giving anybody kind of advice here. But Scotty kind of improving throughout the weekend, shooting even today. I think that was better than what we saw out of him. Finished the tournament at +4. This was just interesting overall, though. Jon Rahm had a great Sunday, shot 3 under today. ended up finishing tied 7th with Scotty Scheffler with Sam Burns. The leader coming into today. Feel bad for Sam Burns. This was a guy that was looking for his first major victory, and then ended up shooting 8 over today, kind of really just shooting himself in the foot. You never love to see that. I think anytime you have guys going for their first majors, it's always something you're trying to cheer on. And we did see somebody win their first major in JioSaavn. I'm glad that we saw that. 5th oldest player in history to win a major after never previously recording even a top 20 finish. This is a guy that's never been on the radar pretty much of these major champions. Yeah, I don't know. I like golf. Not very good at it. But this was an exciting tournament. I'm excited to kind of see the Open this year and just how Scotty Scheffler, Rory's going to play, guys like Xander Schauffele. It's going to be interesting what's going to happen the rest of this PGA season. Mehrob, any other kind of thoughts, overarching topics when you're covering and talking about the U.S. Open? Any kind of other storylines here that you had that you want to bring up? Or not?
I think we hit the nose on the head. We hit the nail on the head. Nose on the head.
Yeah,
JioSaavn just being one of those younger guys, getting his first major championship. It's nice to see that. We brought up Rory McIlroy. We bring up the older guys in Scheffler and Koepka. It was a little bit tough to, like you said, Sam Burns, a guy that is kind of on the come up, where he's kind of knocking on the door. It's not a question of if he'll win. It's just a question of when he can capture that first major championship. He was right there with it today. Just finished a little 2 over, and he'll have another chance. Oakmont Country Club is definitely one of those tougher courses to play on. I just expect him to bounce back when the PGA Tour begins and as we get closer to Augusta, because that is when golf hits its peak during Masters season.
This is true, but there's plenty of golf left in the PGA season. We're going to take another short break, though, and when we come back, we're going to switch gears, and we're going to talk about the UFC and Kamaru Usman selling us, hey, I'm still around, don't forget my name. We're going to talk about his performance when we come back on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Hello, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We're rolling along today on this Sunday, June 15th. I'm going to talk a little bit about the UFC. And Kamaru Usman, after 20 months off, after 3 years of not winning a fight in the UFC, this 38-year-old Kamaru Usman comes in to Atlanta, says, "Don't you forget about me. I'm still here. I'm still around. I'm still the Nigerian Nightmare. And yeah, I still got it." Dominates Joaquin Buckley for 4+ rounds. Kind of falters a little in the 5th, but I think the rest of that fight kind of made up for it. Mehrob, what do you think about Kamaru Usman's first victory since November 2021, snapping a 3-fight losing streak? What are your thoughts about what we saw last night out of the Nigerian Nightmare?
Yeah, the Nigerian Nightmare showed up and reminded us why he has that nickname. And I'll say it right off the top. I was the guy that thought Buckley was going to walk through Kamaru Usman. I thought he was going to knock him out. I expected this. I didn't even think it was going to go to distance. I really didn't. But how wrong I was. This this proved why. I think there's multiple different storylines here, and I want to start from the beginning when the last time prior to last night, last time we'd seen Kamaru Usman in the ring. October 2023, going up against the Boogeyman in Khamzat Chimaev, making his first fight in middleweight. Khamzat and Usman's both first fights in middleweight. And it looked like a fight where Kamaru Usman just got outclassed. He looked slow. He looked tired. Khamzat was ragdolling him around the ring, and it looked like the phenom, was the guy that was truly the boogeyman of the welterweight division, was just not. It was he looked like he'd gone past his prime. It looked like he's just getting closer and closer to the days of father time, and that the end was near. He takes 2 years off. He comes back fresh against an up-and-coming Joaquin Buckley, a reeling guy in Kamaru. We've seen him many times with a reeling guy like Kamaru Usman facing a young blood in Joaquin Buckley, a hungry guy in Joaquin Buckley trying to capture his first championship in the UFC. And what happens? Usman showed us why he has some of the best wrestling in the UFC. His grappling skills were off the charts in this fight. Joaquin Buckley could not hang with him on the ground. He couldn't stop a takedown for his life. I think Usman was like 5 of 8 or 6 of 9 on takedowns last night. It was a phenomenal fight all around, and Usman completely dominated it. You saw it in the post-fight. Usman being a little bit emotional because of people, frankly, just calling him out and just writing him off. I feel bad that I was one of them. But I'm so good. I'm so happy to see him back in the UFC, and do not be shocked if he gets the next crack at the welterweight championship. I think he's going to be second in line. I think Shavkat's still ahead of him in terms of who's got next after Islam's fight with JDM coming up soon in August. But it looks like this fight is he's going to be up there. He's going to be up there easily in the top 3 of the rankings. And he'll get his chances coming very soon in 2026.
Yeah, this was a fight where we saw Kamaru Usman rely on what got him to that level of being a UFC champion. Relies heavily on that college wrestling background, uses his grappling, particularly in those first 4 rounds. He's able to take Buckley down with ease in each of those rounds. And the first round takes him down pretty much within a minute and a half. And that was kind of how it went progressively. He got a little more patient, I think. He was picking his spots a little better, but you're right, though. Those takedowns, 4 of 7 on takedown attempts in the first 4 rounds. And we just saw him be trademark Kamaru Usman. Use that grappling and just never give Joaquin Buckley a chance on the ground. When Buckley went down, he wasn't getting back up. Unless Kamaru Usman was letting him. We saw the amount of control time that Kamaru Usman had, the amount of time he was able to sit in top guard in half and just control what Joaquin Buckley was doing. It was incredibly impressive. I will say, though, I want to give Joaquin Buckley some credit here. In the 5th round, after getting his butt kicked for 4 straight rounds, for 20 minutes of just getting his butt completely kicked, that's the nice way I'm going to put it, he was able to come in the 5th round and take some lessons from those first couple of rounds, makes Kamaru Usman go 0 for 6 in that final round in terms of takedown attempts, starts getting some offense going, able to kind of hit him with some winging hooks, able to hit him with some uppercuts. Kamaru Usman, I think at that point, though, too experienced. He knows that he had the decision lined up. He wasn't going to let himself get knocked out. That's just, he's too smart. He's too experienced for that. But Joaquin Buckley, what he did, I think, in that last round was pretty impressive. I think that's kind of what we were hoping to see throughout the rest of this fight. But I think this is a fight where Joaquin Buckley takes his experience here and he learns from getting completely dominated by Kamaru Usman on the ground. I think it makes him a better fighter overall. And I think it makes a potential rematch. I don't know if that'll happen just because Kamaru Usman already 38. It makes a potential rematch, though, certainly a lot more intriguing. I do think, though, Kamaru, he's going to have a title shot coming up. After JDM and Islam fight, he certainly has put his name up there. Where do you see Joaquin Buckley kind of going after this fight, after losing a fight that a lot of people had him kind of earmarked to win and just rise up and continue ascending? What happens here for Joaquin Buckley?
I think if you're Joaquin Buckley, you go after, you have wins over guys like Colby Covington and Steve Wonderboy. But I think you need to go after the next level. I think you stick with this challenge. You got a great challenge from Kamaru Usman. You learned a lot, like you said, in round 5. He started stuffing some of those takedowns, and he made it much more of a striking fight. And in a striking fight, I'm taking Joaquin Buckley anytime over Kamaru Usman with the level of striking he possesses, with the power behind some of those punches. He's an incredible fighter. And you saw it late in the 5th round when Usman was taking some shots and you started getting worried, because it was shades of Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman back in the day when Leon Edwards hit him with that high kick. Joe Rogan was talking about it or not Joe Rogan, but one of the guys on the telecast was saying
I think Michael Bisping might have been saying it. Whoever it was, I remember exactly what you're saying, though, where it was shades of that Leon Edwards fight. Sorry, but continue going on there.
No worries, please. Thank you. But yeah, it was absolute shades of that, and Michael Bisping called it out right there. But I think if you want me to be honest, I don't want this. I don't want this for the guy that he's fighting, but I think this would be an incredible fight. I would love to see him square off against Ian Gary in that next fight. I think that would be kind of one of those comeback fights for Ian Gary after losing that tough fight to Shavkat a couple months ago. And it would continue to propel Joaquin Buckley to the next level. I don't think Joaquin took that big of a step back. I think this fight meant more for Usman taking that next step up, getting back into the championship picture. But for Buckley, I think if he fought Gary, Gary's definitely still a very tough fight for him. And it would make sense for Gary for a comeback fight for him. They're both two guys that are incredible, that are hungry to go after their first championship. I think it would make sense both ways. Buckley would get into the top 5 conversation. Gary would get closer to the top 3 conversation for the welterweight division. I think it would just make sense for both fighters. Maybe Dana White's listening. Maybe he'll follow maybe he agrees with me. Who knows? But yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting to see how this all shakes out.
Dana White, if you're listening, why not use our GSMC Podcast.net link to donate? Sorry, that was just my little fun piece. But no, I think I don't know if you have any other kind of thoughts on this topic. I've said all I want to say about Kamaru Usman, though. I just think incredibly impressive performance. I was not expecting him to come out like he did. We'll see if he can keep this up. Did you have anything else, Mehrob, that you wanted to cover from this kind of event or Usman in general?
Last thing I want to say for a guy like Usman, the one funny thing I want to bring up is when Usman was asked about if he would like to fight Belal Muhammad next, he pretty much embarrassed Belal and just scoffed at it, gave him no credit. I don't know if that's pretty much stirring the pot for the next matchup for Usman. I think that would be an interesting matchup. But I think that would be really interesting. I would love to see that matchup. And both those guys are defending a former champion, just lost to Jack Della Maddalena. And then it would just put it would solidify Kamaru Usman second or probably third behind Shavkat and Islam Makhachev in that championship picture.
One thing is for sure, though, the Nigerian Nightmare is back and is not going anywhere for the near future. But right now, we're going to take our last short break of the show. When we come back, we're going to finish off by talking about the LA Dodgers and their superstar in Shohei Ohtani. Could they be rushing him back to the pitching mound? We're going to dive into all of that when we come back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. We're going to finish off our show today by talking a little bit about the LA Dodgers and Shohei Ohtani, their superstar pitcher, obviously. Could he actually be returning to the mound? And I want to set the scene here by talking about what happened on Tuesday night. Tuesday night, we get Matt Sauer, 26-year-old journeyman. He gets called up to pitch a bunch of bulk innings for the Dodgers. Throws 111 pitches, which is a career high, at least 29 more than he has pitched at any other point in the past 2 seasons. So you have Matt Sauer, 26-year-old utility guy, gets pulled up to pitch, throws 30 more pitches than he has in the past 2 years. Then you get Enrique Hernandez, their utility player for the Dodgers, Kike. He goes onto the mound, records the final 7 outs. It wasn't just 1 or 2 batters. The final 7 outs of a loss to the San Diego Padres. He pitched over 2 innings here, Kike Hernandez did. Threw crossbody cutters that were barely reaching 50 miles an hour. Marked the first time in 67 years that a Dodgers position player has been called on for more than 2 innings to pitch. This is the state of the Dodgers pitching staff right now. Injury rate once again alarming. Team's divisional lead has continued to shrink, and now you have your second place team in the San Francisco Giants just traded for Rafael Devers too. So you have teams continually on your tail. Shohei Ohtani has reportedly taken place in his 3rd simulated game, pitched 44 pitches there. If you're Dave Roberts and if you're the Dodgers, are you rushing Shohei Ohtani back right now to the pitching mound? Because yes, you have a ton of injuries here, but is it worth it to force this guy to pitch when you look at what he's done on the other side of the plate? First in majors in homers since 2023, 2nd in OPS, 5th in batting average, 6th in stolen bases, and within the top 1% in exit velocity, barrel rate, and slugging percentage. That's probably the best overall hitter in baseball. So when you look at it, Mehrob, what do you think? Do you think that the Dodgers should be trying to push Shohei to get back to the mound? Because when he is on the mound, he's a great pitcher. Or do you think they just kind of let him completely rehab and get his shoulder right and then come back to pitch? What do you kind of think here, especially considering the Giants and the Padres right on the Dodgers' heels?
Yeah, I definitely think that they should not rush that. I know that they're dealing with a lot of injuries, and when you have a guy like Kike Hernandez going onto the pitcher's mound, a
Over
position
2
play,
innings pitched, 7 outs.
that is
That's unbelievable. I mean,
that is unbelievable. I did not even know this was a thing. That is unbelievable to even think about. Kike Hernandez on the pitching mound. It just shows how much they lost in the offseason, how little they did to fill those holes. And then, of course, Shohei Ohtani being the ace that he is for this, or not the ace, but being one of the top guys in this rotation. Outside of a guy like a Yamamoto, Yamamoto's probably the ace as a Cy Young winner in himself. But Shohei is such an important piece to this team. It's just going to be interesting to see if they bring him back as a pitcher. I think he'll have spurts of it. The thing is, though, he keeps getting constantly injured. He just came off of Tommy John surgery. He's had so many injuries in his career. He's had a couple season-ending ones as well. When I'm looking at Shohei, I'm a little bit worried to bring him back quickly, especially after that Tommy John. I just don't know. I just don't know what you do if you're the Dodgers. You're stuck between an unstoppable force and an immovable object, as we call it sometimes. Do you go down the road of just complete, thin, negative depth in your bullpen, which is honestly destroying your team, especially with such a close race with the San Francisco Giants nipping at your heels? Or do you bring Shohei back quicker than you expect, risk possible injury, but bring him back for some crucial series? I got to take a look at their schedule. I don't know exactly what it's looking like, but especially if they're facing some of the top teams in the MLB coming up soon, I'd be very worried if I'm the Los Angeles Dodgers coming right up. Well, funny enough, they're playing the Giants right now. So, and they have the Padres coming up.
Big time divisional matchups there.
Exactly. So these are crucial times. I would not be shocked if we see Shohei called up in one of these games, give him the National Series off, Rockies, Royals. Honestly, it's up to them. Do they risk it all right? Do you risk bringing him back for a couple games here in this Padres series and then give him some time off next? Or do you just scrap the whole thing and say, we'll wait until the Dodgers-Giants series or Dodgers-Astros series in mid-July? It's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out, but I think the schedule is a big part of this.
Yeah, and I do kind of feel for the Dodgers, at least as much as you can feel for a team that has built one of the most incredible rosters I think we've ever seen, at least in the modern era in terms of MLB history. You look at what happened last year. Yes, they win the World Series somehow, but during that season, deploy over 40 pitchers during the season, ride a 3-man rotation, and continual bullpen games in those playoff series last year. This year, it was supposed to be different. They made moves in the offseason. You go get Blake Snell, you have Tyler Glasnow, you have Roki Sasaki, 3 starters who were all expected to kind of be at the front of one of the best rotations in the MLB. All out right now with shoulder-related ailments. Have 11 other pitchers too on the injured list. Dodgers have already used over 30 players to pitch this season, more than any other team in the sport. Their bullpen leads the majors in innings by a wide margin. It's really almost desperation time right now for the Dodgers. When you look at the innings pitched already for that bullpen, you rolled that bullpen really hard to World Series last year. So if you still have the same guys and you're riding them even harder this year, it's very likely that those arms are going to burn out at some point. It's just going to be too much for at least one or two of these guys. And who knows when there's a crucial moment where one of these guys they're just gassed from having, overuse, having been pitched too much. When you look at then this guy sitting on your bench, when you look at the options of, Shohei Ohtani, 2.8 ERA, over 500 strikeouts in 400 innings from, during the time that he's pitched. Obviously, yes, had that second UCL tear, had the Tommy John. It's a really intriguing option there. It's kind of like the eye candy dangling there for Dodgers manager Dave Roberts, is you have this guy who, when he is on the mound, he's an all-world type pitcher. But then there is the downside here. There's what happens if he gets hurt again. This is a guy who arguably already is a top 5, top 10 player in MLB history. I'm not going that far. Our good friend Jeremy Lapidus, he may go a little farther than I would in terms of talking about Shohei Ohtani's place in the all-time greats. This is a guy that, if he does get hurt again, that could significantly hamper his career. I think I probably agree with you. I think I'd lean more towards the side of caution here, just because you already have one of the most stacked rosters in baseball. I mean, there's really only one or two other teams that can even compete with the amount of talent on this Dodgers team. It doesn't make sense to me to risk, Shohei Ohtani and potential years of this kind of two-way, all-world type level of production. I just think this seems kind of short-sighted to try to rush him back. I don't know what happens with the Dodgers here, what if they do kind of get some other help here. But it's certainly kind of interesting, the idea of bringing back Shohei. I don't know. I think you're kind of with me here, Mehrob, on leaning more towards waiting for Shohei Ohtani. I just think his bat's too good. Yes, he's a great pitcher, but that bat.
You need to prioritize his health. The bat is rolling, the way he hits the ball. His hitting is completely eclipses how good of a pitcher he is. If you just take his pitching, his hitting is double that, how vital he is on the hitting side of the ball. When I'm looking at Shohei Ohtani, you just need to prioritize his health. Too many injuries lately, too many season-ending tears, too many even sometimes minor injuries, simple injuries that just keep him off the field. If I'm the Dodgers, I'm giving him time. I'm letting him sit probably another, at least until the end of June. I think a great time for him to come back would be that Astros series starting on the 4th of July. If they do they decide to wait that long is the question. It's all up to front office. It's all up to management. But that's my take. I think they should wait and let Shohei come to them instead of forcing Shohei out there on the mound just for him to hurt his elbow or hurt his shoulder or something of that sort. And then he's out once again for another 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, I tend to agree here, Mehrob. Dodgers, take a chill pill. You still got a great roster. You still have an all-world talent. Just relax a little bit. Pump the brakes. We still have a ton of baseball left to play out in this 2025 MLB season. So just wait on it, LA. Just wait. You still got one of the greatest guys ever to play this game. But with all of that, we're going to end our show for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning into the GSMC Sports Podcast. Please remember to go follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter for even more sports content, more sports updates that you love. From myself, my co-host, Mehrob Fatemi, thank you so much and have a great evening.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna